Once you've made sure that your thesis is arguable, which is obviously the most important step, then you have to think about whether or not your thesis is important. So how do we make sure that it is important? So if your reader might think about, read your thesis and say, yeah, okay, that's fine. Sounds like something that somebody might argue, but why would somebody bother? Those are the things that you're really kind of thinking about here. It might be that your thesis is an opinion rather than an argument. Remember, we spent time talking about the idea of argument versus opinion. And opinions just don't really matter in the scheme of things, whether they're true or not. Whether vanilla ice cream is better than chocolate or not. So if it's not important to your audience, then they're not going to continue to read. So you have to find a way to show the importance in the world. So it might be an opinion that you're going to somehow modify in order to make sure that it's important that this can be considered in the world. So I'm starting off actually with the arguable thesis statements that we revised to from the first video to make sure that we have an arguable thesis also. In some ways, these already have some importance to them, but I think that we can make sure that they're a little bit more important. So this is arguable, but who cares if those unrealistic body types undermine the potential for them being strong role models? We have to think about what matters. We also have to think about why it matters that the social pressure to reconnect with families is critical. There's some implication there, something implied that's important, but we could probably make it more concrete and same thing with these two. Excuse me. That we can make those more important as well. So let's figure out what we can do about these particular things. You can try adding a section to your thesis statement that explicitly states why your claim is important in the world. So a semicolon, which supports two independent clauses, and adding, this is critical to understand because. This is kind of the most simple way to do this, to connect it and say this is important because. Another way is to use a word that you tack on as a clause or a phrase here that says that that it shows that something, or it demonstrates or proving that it does this or that. You could also integrate the importance into the wording of your claim. That's a little bit more complex and challenging. Or you could apply your small claim to a larger issue that makes it a little bit more explicitly important. So let's see if we can do that. So we've got this idea of Disney princesses, and now I've added at the end which are necessary, so these strong role models, which are necessary in a culture that sexualizes girls from an early age. So here I am kind of adding that importance, and why does it matter if these role models don't exist in the way that they need to. So it adds a little bit more complexity to it as well. Here we have just again added a phrase where it says where we're applying it to the larger issue of staving off depression during the holidays when suicides are particularly prevalent. So thinking about why it matters, this idea of connecting. So making it a little bit more personal and thinking about that person who needs that social connection. These again, I have added some phrases at the end. So violence has caused more problems than is solved, showing that people should attempt peaceful methods for change. So recognizing why, and what people should do as a result of this kind of idea that exists in the world. And then the second one, making decisions so that they grow into adults who can function in a complex society. So again, bringing that back to society, saying, oh, well, yes, now it's not just the difference between connection and autonomy, but this bigger idea of functioning adults. So again, we've got to consider the larger implications and making you think more critically about the argument that you really want to make. And that's the key here with all of these. It isn't about the words in your thesis, it's about thinking through your thesis and thinking about why you want to say what you want to say and why it's important in the world, and making sure that your language actually reflects that. Do you have to use the formulas that I've given you? No, you do not. These are some suggestions that'll provide you for a start with a starting point, and then from there you can do what you need to do to make it the best thesis statement possible.